Hello, welcome again. Today we're going to talk about the fundamental principle of space, the third part in the attack or offense organization or organized attack. Okay, as I mentioned before, these are fundamental principles that we use in tactical organization. You can use your own. You can use micro principles or nano principles inside of these fundamental principles. Okay, which I recommend. In other words. And create according to how your team is going to play, according to your playing model. There you can organize how you're going to work, okay? Taking into account, as I mentioned before, you can see in the videos how we do it in tactical position, according to the scales, according to the space on the pitch, according to the information or the principles or concepts. However you decide as a coach, whatever way you decide to take or to approach. So in this case, we're going to talk about always, as I mentioned before, remember that these principles, fundamental principles, they have to be tactical, okay? We're always working related to tactics and not technical, okay? So, or things that are not related to tactical or technical, like, for example, improvisation or things like that, of course, improvisation is like it's always going to have the improvisation of the footballer because this is not PlayStation, okay? So when you're working in real context, no player is going to do the same. So two players are always going to act differently, okay, according to their characteristics. So the principle of space is related to the concept of space and time. This concept refers to the movement of the teammates and the footballer in possession of the ball and their intention to approach or move away with a double objective. At the one hand, promoting a greater operational space for the holder or the player in possession, and forcing the opponent to choose whether to occupy that space created, or on the contrary, mark the player that is moving. Costa defines it as space expansion movements that are executed both in width and depth. Relationship with the total space. Okay, the total space, it will be the space. This is how I divide it into two parts. The total space, which is the whole space of the pitch, okay, and the effective space, which we're later going to talk about. So the total space, in this case, since the space is reduced and we have many opponents concentrated in this space, we would try to expand the space and move the defensive block in order to find free spaces where our team would try to progress. So in other words, when we're going to be thinking of total space, we're going to be trying to move that defensive block or the defensive team from side to side, from back and forth, in order for us to free up space where we're going to take advantage of it, okay? So basically, when we're talking about total space, is this: we're trying to move the defense, we're trying to move the defensive block to find these free spaces that later we're going to occupy and take advantage. The relationship with the effective space. Now, the effective space will be the two imaginary lines between the defensive forward, okay, the first line of defense, or the defensive side, or the defensive block, and the last line, which will be in this case, the back line or back four, okay? So this space in between is the effective space, okay? And here's where we're going to create space and occupy and take advantage of it, okay? So we're going to create, like here, what our team is going to try is to attract, okay, or to dribble until a defender comes out and then eliminate him or her by passing the ball to a teammate. We're going to try to set or pin, like for example, one player just standing there is going to attract defenders, okay? So another teammate will take advantage of that space, okay? Or drag or move away where they will drag the defender out of position in order to take advantage of the space or generate space that we will then try to take advantage of, whether it is the footballer in possession or a teammate without the ball, okay? So we're always going to try these type of situations, and this is why it's very important first for the footballer to see and perceive the space, and then begin to understand it and how to occupy and take advantage of it, okay? So we're always going to create tasks related to this, okay? And the very simple way to do it for the defensive team is to try to create constraints so that the defensive team can move only in a certain space, and the offensive team has liberty or freedom to move, so, okay? So they're able to move and generate and occupy and take advantage of the free space, okay? Okay, as you see here, we're going to have the wing player of the green team dragging the defender out of position, and then the striker pinning or standing there or attracting, just not moving, but attracting the two central defenders so that we create this free space is going to be taken advantage by the the green offensive midfielder on the right side, okay? So there we're going to see one just standing there, one dragging, and the other one taking advantage of the free space, okay? Just very simple example, okay? So these are type of tasks we're going to try always to create, okay, in different rondos or possessions or positional games, especially trying to create constraints of the team that's defending, okay? Later we can do it without, at the end, maybe, as a progression, without any constraints, and see how they are able to apply it, okay? Some generic examples of different micro principles of the fundamental principle of space: enlarging or extending effective playing space. So in possession of the ball, our footballers must try to widen or enlarge the effective playing space, both in width and depth, so that there is a distance long enough so that the player in possession cannot be easily pressured, although not so long where they cannot associate with each other in order to progress or maintain possession of the ball. This has directly linked to offensive cover, okay? If the distances are too long, they will not be able to progress and associate, pass to each other, or even dribble, because the defender will be just paying attention to the ball, the player who has possession of the ball, right? And if the distances are too short or too small, we will attract many defenders in the same space. So we don't want that. So we don't want neither distances to be not too long or the distance to be too short. You have to be correctly, and the angles of the passing lanes the same. Okay? It is directly linked to the principles of offensive coverage, penetration, and the other fundamental principles, mobility and offensive unity. Okay, so these are all linked. These fundamental principles are all linked with each other, and they are all linked to the playing model, of course, and they are all linked to the phases or the moments of the game. So this is why it's very important to see the game as a whole, and also to train all these type of situations where our footballers or our players will be knowing what to do in every moment, okay, in the match. Okay, here we have a format which is very simple. You can do it in context, in real game context, or you can change it a bit, however you prefer. But these are all types of situations where, in this case, we're going to change from defense to offense organization, okay, to space concentration, which is a fundamental defensive principle, to a space, which is an offensive fundamental principle. So the defensive team, in this case, the three midfielders, are going to try to pressure, steal the ball, get it out of pressure, open up, and not lose possession of the ball, okay? Very simple, okay? Then later you can add more real things that apply to a real match. But in this case, it's just a simple progression of how to begin, okay? So there, the three midfielders are going to steal the ball, open up immediately, change the rhythm of play so we don't lose possession of the ball, and have good ball movements so that we're able to progress as a block, okay, in good positional play. Very easy format, okay. These types of formats, you can imagine that you can create many different types, many different ways, smaller spaces. You can add defensive players on the green team behind the space, however you choose, however you prefer, okay? But always we're trying to create these type of situations, okay? Okay. Expand the distances or positioning of the opponent. So our objective in possession of the ball will not only be to advance or progress towards the opponent's goal, but to move our opponent as well as stretch or lengthen in order to generate imbalances and free spaces that will later be exploited. The objective of having a good positional game and possession is not due to aesthetic reasons, as I said many times before, but to move, stretch the opponent, and enlarge the effective playing space in order to take advantage of the space between or behind the defensive lines, and to advance as a block so that in the event that possession is lost, we're going to be able to press immediately after losing possession, okay? So as I always mentioned many times before, positional play, possession football is not due to tiki-taka, as they say in Spain, you know, aesthetic reasons to play nice. Of course, if you play this type of football, maybe you like it, but that's another added component. The real reason is tactical. The real reason is to reach the opponent's goal with many players and have more percentage of finishing the play. The real reason is pressing after losing the ball immediately. Okay, this is the real reasons, not just because of aesthetic reasons. Okay, difficult defensive actions of opponents. So by expanding the space, both in width and depth, and moving our opponent from one side to the other, we will seek to complicate or make difficult the opponent's defensive actions. It will be much more difficult for the defensive team to be able to cover or reorganize defensively if it is long, if it's occupying a long space, taking up a lot of space, than if it defends in a very compact way, since the distance and therefore the time will radically change the opponent's defensive movements, okay? Facilitate the offensive actions of our team. So by stretching out the opposing team, it will be easier to create and take advantage of free space. We often see teams playing back. This is not due because it is a fad, but to stretch and move the opposing defensive block so that our team can enlarge the space, stretch it both in width and depth, since in this way it will be easy to create and take advantage and occupy of free spaces between the lines as well as behind the opposing defensive through dribbling or filtering passes. Okay, so example, playing back to move the defensive block in width and depth. As I said, some teams do not understand this, or some coaches, and they play back because they think it's a fad. Rather, we use it to move, okay, to take advantage of the total space and to move the defense, since our team is not able to find the correct channels or the correct lanes to attack and penetrate and advance, to progress. So we're going to try to move the defensive block from one side to the other. And when we find the space, we're going to try to take advantage of it, okay? And this is something that we have to train a lot, okay? Not just moving the ball back and forth without any sense, okay? It has to be trained. It has to be understood by the footballers. It has to be done once, over and over again in the sessions, so that in the real match they're going to do it without any effort, okay? They will do it without any problems. Move to an area of lower pressure. So being able to move the ball from areas where there are a larger number of footballers. Remember that this is related to the opposite of defensive concentration that we're going to talk about. Okay, and the space will be more concentrated with more transit to areas where, due to smaller number of players and more space, it will be easier to progress across the pitch. Okay, so we work this a lot, especially with rondas. We're getting the ball out of pressure, not get the ball out of pressure when we're working defensively. This is going to be all related to this, okay? So example, these types of formats of exercises that we use a lot, you can utilize in structure or in the system of your team, wherever you play, okay? And change from one situation to another, to a real game situation, where we're going to change here from defense organization, the blue team, to offense organization. So then we're going to get the ball out of pressure. We're going to change the rhythm of the game. We're going to give security to the possession of the ball, and we're going to see where our team is going to progress, okay? Moving the opposing defensive team, trying to generate space through the total space. Once we do this, we're going to take advantage of the effective space, okay? Generate time to give continuity to the game. So the pace of the game, by expanding the space, will inevitably vary, okay? So once we open up this space, once we gain possession, the pace or the rhythm of the possession will change. It would slow down because the space will be larger, okay? So it will go down in order to take advantage of the space and to give our team more possibilities so that they do not risk losing possession. This is where the pause comes in, so that the team opens up and can exploit the space in width and depth. Of course, you cannot. You can try to take advantage, not change the rhythm and maintain it very quickly. But the big problem with this is that if you have a possession near your own goal and a high possession, you're risking losing the ball. So later, in that sense, we're going to try to give security to the possession, not lose the ball because we're very close to our own goal. Okay, this is mainly the reason. This in turn will be related to the recognition of the phases or moments of the game when our team will go into an offensive organization or attack, defensive organization or defense, or the two transitions, offensive and defense, okay? So this is all related, as you see, okay, to the phases or moments, to the micro principles of all the moments, okay? This is all related, okay? but we have to work it at the same time, create tasks where they're going to change from one to another. Not just playing on a regular match, they're not going to understand this, okay? Look for safer options with footballers in more defensive areas to allow progression and not lose the ball. Once again, this micro principle will be linked to the principle of offensive coverage, mobility, and penetration, where we look for many lines across the width and length of the pitch, always looking for the ball carrier to always have a teammate or passing line ahead, to the sides, and behind, guaranteeing the continuity of possession and reducing the risk of losing it. Okay, so as you see, like I mentioned in the video before about offensive coverage, offensive cover, this is all related. Okay, the passing lanes, the distances, okay, how they're supposed to, the footballer's supposed to move. This is all related. Okay, we're always going to be trained in this. Okay. Preferential simulating situations or methodological tools. Okay, how are we going to work this? Of course, with passing exercises, where we change also from analytical, simple passing exercises to real game situations, or where we can take advantage of space. Okay, rondos or mobile rondos. Okay, very important also. Positional games, of course. Possessions and matches with constraints. Matches with constraints, especially want to create constraints on the defensive team, so that the offensive players are going to be able to recognize how to create space for the teammates and how to take advantage of the space that our teammate has created, okay? Okay, so this is the video for space. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, liked, share, please do so we can reach more colleagues, more coaches, or physical trainers who love this game, who have a passion for the game, and we can reach more people and keep creating material content, okay? Hope to see you again. If you have any questions, any doubts, you have my email there. You can write to me on my channel also. Take care. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.